Hey everyone, I'm Ross, and we're going to look at the user interviews activity in the remote design sprint. Let's get into it. And now we come to user testing, which is my favorite part of the remote design sprint. We find out key answers to our questions. We get to interview users, and for some of the team, this might be the first moment that they've heard from their users directly. And it's going to give us the information we need to take this project forwards or to really take it back to the drawing board and reevaluate. Again, through the sprint, we have this two-way conversation. We have the business and then the user. And this is the point where the business has said its part and now the user is going to respond. So user testing for me is a fantastic activity within the sprint. To run them, you'll need to have done a few things. You'll need to have understood who your user is and started recruiting them on day one or even before the sprint. You also need to understand what makes a good user, so you can put together a screener survey for them to complete and for them to show you that they're one of the best users to go forwards with. And to find users, I tend to use tools like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. And if it's more of a general audience, they are great sources to find users. With something a little more specialist, certainly on LinkedIn, you can focus down on key roles within a business and share a bit about what you're doing. You're not doing a test. You are looking for feedback on a new app, and you're interested in hearing what their opinions are. And use that language. No one likes to be tested, and we're not testing the user, we're testing out our prototype and our ideas. But few users will sign up to a test. So ask them, you want feedback, especially if they're interested in XYZ, selling online, renewing clothes, interested in creating that side hustle at home, whatever helps get the best candidates forward and make sure you're getting the right users. And you want to go wide to start with. So ideally get, 20 or so candidates to fill in your screener survey. And on that survey, you may ask them a few questions just to validate that they're great users to interview. Incentives work really well. We usually reward people to participate and volunteer their time for £100 or $100 Amazon voucher. That sweetens the deal. But also it means that they're choosing to participate in our user interviews and not choosing anything else. Because on user testing day and the sessions that you do the user interviews, it can be really difficult and stressful if you find users are dropping out. Of course, they don't need to come to your session, but any way that you can encourage them to do that, say that it's only 45 minutes, you're looking to show them a new product that can help them do XYZ, and in return, you'll give them a £100 Amazon voucher, then that really does help. And then on user testing day, you've got time blocked out with each user. They have a link to the chat. Maybe it's a Zoom call or something else. And you can share the prototype. We use Figma, and they'll have that Figma link. Probably the key things to bear in mind here are all we want them to do is turn up on time and start the call. That's number one. Then, when the call has started, you want to ask them to enable screen sharing so you can see what they're seeing. And if you're using Zoom, it will also ask their permission to record, because you want to record these sessions so that you can share for anyone that wasn't part of the user testing. Ideally, people are watching it live within the team. They've made the time. So enable screen sharing. And then the second part to that is to open the link that you'll send in the chat. The key reason for this is you don't want to send two links to them and them get confused on the first invite. Send them one thing to do at a certain time, and then within the call, the first few minutes, they've enabled their screen sharing and they've opened the link. And they're the key things that you need to do. Obviously, before then, you are giving them lots of information on an email, instructions, if you need to send a contract, anything like that, to help prepare them. Okay, and for each user test, I use 60 minutes, 45 minutes for the interview, and then 15 minutes to round up amongst the team, write down any insights learned, and reset for the next test. This is what the board looks like. I'll give you a guide. So down the left-hand side, we've got each step in our storyboard. Download, onboarding, register, what's new, view item, like item, view liked items, send to friend. Then at the end, we've got our 3 sprint questions, and we want to ask them directly. You have to reformulate them so it feels like a question. So for this sprint question, can we find out if people understand the product early on? You can say, my first question is, did you understand the product early on? And you want yes or no answers. So you might get yes. And to follow on, you may say, how would you describe it to a friend in a sentence? And they'll say, this app helps me do. Okay. You got your 3 sprint questions, and then at the end, you can have a last one, anything else, just in case you have time. Now, bear in mind, early on in the interview, that is the most valuable part, because the longer things go on, the user may find other things come on within their environment. They might decide that they have to leave. So keep the momentum going, keep reminding them and encouraging them, and gamify it to an extent. Kind of say, hey, you're halfway through, fantastic, and thank you so much for spending the time. Make them feel really special, because what they're sharing is gold. You're not looking for agreement in what you've done. You're looking for cast iron feedback. And you're naturally inquisitive. What do you think that does? Where do you think that goes? What's missing in this environment? Those kind of open-ended questions are exactly what you need to ask your users. So for each user, we've got them going along the top, left to right. So if I said Annie, and we'd start going down the chart. Now, why have we got green and orange? Well, green is for good or positive, and orange is for negative. So I may say it was easy to download and liked the icon. Was unsure what it did. She said it looked like a magic want. Finally, what I'd suggest is that the facilitator is leading the interview and talking to the user. The designer is writing down the feedback. That way, the facilitator can focus in on what the user's doing, look at what they're seeing on the screen share, and the designer can focus on make sure that what they're writing can be read by anyone and we're hitting the right points. And that's what the user interviews looked like in the remote design sprint. If you like this video, give it a like and consider sharing it with someone who needs to see it.